So, update 3 for the Rx7. Um, Last night, took the power steering pump out and um, disassembled it, got the reservoir off of it so that I can um, hopefully easily put the new one back in. Uh, that was easy. I mean, it was just a matter of me taking some bolts off and draining it without getting fluid all over the floor, which actually turned out to be a lot easier than I thought. With that, I didn't even need to use my useless hand pump. Um, and I discovered what possibly could be at least the knocking sound that I heard associated with the transmission and engine movement. I looked under the car, couldn't see it, couldn't see what I was looking at from the passenger side, but I did see the clue from the passenger side. When I got to the driver's side and looked under the car, I noticed that the catalytic converter is now um, touching or very close to touching the transmission um, mount that I built. So, and the reason why is because back on the passenger side, this is totally my fault. As most things I'm running into, the I tried to glue together the um, exhaust hanger because I cut it to get it off, um, and that turned out to be a mistake. So it came loose, and so the exhaust moves, shifted towards the center of the car, and now it's hitting. I guess as the engine moves, it's hitting the transmission, and now I look at it as like, okay, yeah, that's most likely that has to be the noise I hear from uh, when the exhaust when the car brakes hard or accelerates hard. Normally I really only hear it braking hard, um, or a really hard launch, but I haven't done any hard launches yet. So as far as that's concerned, at least I think that's where that's coming from. I'm gonna have to actually do a proper hanging um, when I get the car in the lift and sort that out. I got the hangers. I've just been lazy to take off the mounts, um, bolt it up, and hang it in there. When I do that, however, to hang it correctly, it might actually be closer to where the transmission is, which means I'm gonna have to probably either cut or bend the frame, the transmission mount, which is not a big deal, because well, I just got to do it. Looking at how it was, I was like, well, I could probably just hit it with a hammer, bend the tab back so it doesn't come close. So that's that. Now the exhaust got louder, as I said in update 2. I'm assuming right now the exhaust got louder because when the hanger broke off, the exhaust moved, thus opening a hole somewhere, and that makes sense. Somewhere where, because the way when I bolted up, it was hanging, is not hanging there no more, and that's I'm assuming that's what, because maybe because there's more play in it, and I'm like, okay, that's probably what's going on. Why I now hear exhaust leak when I didn't before. And I really don't want to spend any money to work on the front half of the exhaust because it's going to be replaced entirely. Um, so I really don't want to put money in that. Um, the rear half, I might actually need to drop to inspect it because I've never dropped it to see what it looks like in its entirely on the floor to really inspect to see if there's any holes in it, because it could be some holes in it. And I know it's a stock system. It's not that great. It's probably the original stuff that came in the car. The car's 23 years old. It needs to go, but at least hold on for the time being. I just spent a bunch of money that I probably wasn't supposed to spend by buying new struts and stuff, so that's going to happen. The exhaust is definitely low on the list of things to get replaced because it doesn't affect drivability at all. So I don't care as long as it's not broken, as far as giving me a symptom of something else, I don't care. At least for right now, I don't care. But the transmission was high priority because I was like, I hope that mountain isn't going to break. And stuck with the transmission on the ground. Turns out the mount actually looks, from at least from sticking my hand underneath the car and looking at how it looks in parallel, it looks like it's sturdy. It's holding up just the way it should. It looks like it's parallel with the ground. It's not slagging. Doesn't look distorted a bit, but it's really hard to tell from just looking underneath the car. And I know that. So I'm gonna have to put the car on lift and actually really inspect the transmission mount. Now, talking about transmission mount, that transmission mount there was really just kind of something to get it done at the time because I don't have access to a welder, and was going to try to fabricate a stronger piece, or at least a stronger system. And kind of what I came up with was to leave the current one in place, but create some bracing for it, because right now it only holds the transmission to keep it from going back and forth. Not much going on between keeping it from going laterally, and I was going to use some quarter-inch steel bars I have downstairs, flat stock, and maybe cut it or bend it in shape and create something to brace it sideways, because the original transmission mount held like this, not like this, and that's the way I'm currently setting up right now. That'll keep transmission from going left and right, stiffen things up. But I don't know how to do that, and I was thinking, well, since I don't have access to a welder, neither am I qualified, and I don't know exactly what I want. If I knew, like, alright, here's some stuff, I just need this metal here, welded right here, and that's it, I guess I could contract it out to somebody else, but consider I don't even know, it would be completely fabricated on the spot. I gotta think of something else. So, got to thinking, and it just hit me. Why don't I use adhesive? Now, I'm not talking about my normal, like your normal adhesives you would use for, putting together, I don't know, a toy car. We're talking about automotive, industrial grade adhesives. And those adhesives, the industry used for doing all kinds of things, from when they actually built cars. Not as much back then in 1990, but definitely today, adhesives are used because they have a lot of advantages over fastenings, fasteners, or rivets, which who uses rivets nowadays, or welding, because sometimes welding is not the best solution. Welding takes more skill. You need to be able to get there, and it doesn't give you. There's a lot of disadvantages for using welding for certain applications. There's some advantages with welding that's irreplaceable. And so I wanted to think about, well, maybe I should use some adhesives. So I went look to see if I can find industrial grade adhesive. Turns out I already have it. I bought it for the intake job I'm going to be doing with the Turbo 2 lower intake manifold, where I port match it, and before I port match it, I fill the holes with epoxy before I grind it out. Well, that epoxy I bought well over for what I needed for the job, for the intake manifold. However, it seems to be highly suited for what I want to do with the transmission mount. It's a metal, or it's not metal, but it's a metal adhesive designed to heat metal to metal, as well as similar like metal materials. It has a tensile strength of around 3,400 psi, or 4,200. It's pretty high, and it's actually geared towards high heat. Now, I forgot that all these properties when I bought it, but it has them, which is good. I don't need the high heat, but the tensile strength and the resistance to weather and temperature, so like that, I do need. As well as just the fact that it'll do a good job of bonding these two metal surfaces. So, and since this isn't going to be holding the weight of the transmission per se, it's going to be a brace. and depending on how I make it, as far as how it's attached to the current existing brace, uh, super strength may not be needed. Not as much strength as the strength needed for the actual mount itself that's currently holding the weight. Just need something to keep it from going left and right. So I figured maybe I bend the stock I have, maybe bend it so that it forms kind of like an L, and have this is because the part that's holding transmission in right now is it's like an empty box. It's like this box here, except for it doesn't have this here, and it doesn't have this here, just the sides. I was thinking of putting an angle iron, well not an angle iron, but the stock on the flat sides here, and attaching it to somewhere to the bottom of the tunnel. Of course, if I do that, what do I attach it to? The original transmission mount. Well, the original transmission mount's already been used, so I can't use that. Um, but what I could do is use the original manual transmission mount, because right now I'm not using it. I'm using the automatic one, and in the place of the manual transmission mount, it just has the bolt and it just has the stud coming through from the brace. It just has. I'm only using part of that mount, not the whole thing. Now, because it's further back, it's about 7-8 inches back from the automatic. Now, what I could do is I could trim the manual transmission one so that it fits in the tunnel. Put it in on that bar as if it was connected to transmission normally, and then run the bar from there back to the automatic. That might raise the transmission a little bit for the rear, which may not be necessarily a bad thing. But if that's the case, I mean, as long as it doesn't change the angle of the drive shaft too much, move it up a little bit. But the thing is, that way, it can have something to attach to keep it moving side to side, and then somehow brace that to the car. Now that might be easy to do, or something along the lines of doing that. Either way, I gotta find a way to come up with an idea to fabricating something to keep the transmission from moving back and forth. Seeing how it is right now, it's not a terrible big priority at this point. Right now, the priority is back to the engine running smoothly. Since now I've discovered that at higher RPM there seems to be some type of stumble or roughness, which could be from doing some additional research. I came up with timing. big surprise there. Timing could be bad, which is funny because I think the timing is bad, but when I hit it with the gun, right as it says right now, the timing is correct. However, the timing is not where it should be in relation to when I first stabbed the crank angle system. It's about, I don't know, 15 degrees advanced from that. But hit it with a gun and it's correct. So I don't know what's going on with that. I might have to restab it again and leave it where it is. Hit with the gun. It's going to show it's probably going to retard it, and then try to run higher RPM to see how it reacts. If it runs higher RPM smooth, and I adjust it so that it lines up, and it runs RPM it's not smooth, then I know that at least maybe timing has something to do with it. Also could be coils being overdriven, especially the leading. My plugs are good. I know they're my plugs, but my wires may not be good. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do about the wires situation. Because I don't know if those wires. There's nothing wrong with those wires per se. Never been abused, but everything else in this car has been replaced or tuned up. So it could be that. It could be fuel pump not being able to keep up. And if that's the case, that's not a bad thing, because I have a new fuel pump I need to put in from the FD. Um, so if that's the case, I need to replace that anyway. Um, could be TPS. Big surprise there. TPS is probably fucked. Pretty sure it is. Um, we don't feel like changing it again, but I might have to put the original back in, see what happens. Cause I might have two bad ones. Airflow meter. Big surprise there. No. Could be airflow meter. Or of course it could be a vacuum leak, which that'll be the hardest thing to find. Somebody else mentioned on the forum, because I was searching for possible solutions for this, and somebody came up with split air system, or secondary air system. And I was like, that's funny because I have a current code right now for my split air valve, or split air cylinder valve, which I'm pretty sure either it's bad, which you wouldn't be surprised, or due to the fact that this is a converted manual transmission car, it's not able to see it because the ECU is not designed to look for it in the way it's installed. Because reading the manual, it was basically telling me that to test it in an automatic car versus a manual, you gotta unplug the oil pressure from the transmission, ground that wire out, and then you can test it. Otherwise, on a manual transmission, you just go straight to test it. So I'm wondering if I gotta look at how it's wired up with the old transmission control unit, or the ECAT, to see how that tied in, because maybe I need to re-plug that back in for this to work. Maybe I plug it back in and then this solves my problem. I don't know. It's not a big deal. All I did was unplug it. So if that's the case, it'd be nice. But it's a pain in the ass to plug it, to unplug it. Not that bad to plug it back in. It's a pain in the ass to get the thing unplugged. But I'll do that if I need to. That's no problem. And of course, water temperature sensor needs to be replaced. Didn't do it last time because it really requires me to take off the intake manifold to get to it. And at the time I didn't feel like doing it. So yeah, probably not. I don't know what to do about that. But it needs to be replaced. I already got the new one. I mean, the cooling system, everything, the cooling system should be good. I don't know about that fan, but and speaking of which, I don't know if it's the meter on my new instrument cluster that I have for manual transmission that goes up to 9,000 RPM. My engine temperature gauge sometimes doesn't work. Like, and it seems like it doesn't. I don't know if it doesn't work or the engine is taking a really long time to warm up. Lot longer than it should. Because I was driving it, and I know it's been kind of cold, but I was driving it, and I was driving quite a distance, and I'm like, I'm starting to blow heat out the heater, and I'm not getting any change on this temperature sensor at all. And I would tap it, no change, and eventually I'm driving, and then I look over it, and it's normal. So it's like, is this thing intermittent? You know what I mean? I've never seen it go away when it was there. It just like it doesn't want to come on when it should. So maybe the car isn't warmed up yet. I don't know. I know it's gonna take a long time to warm up because it's cold outside. But it seems like this problem only started with me putting that new in. But when it works, it works. I don't know what's going on with that. So new power. So and also I grinded away at the FD alternator mount so that hopefully I can get it closer to a better fit. I also might have to do some more grinding and put a washer in it so I can get it tight. And this time use the appropriate belts, because didn't use appropriate belts and it led to it slipping, which I'm assuming that's what's going on. It was slipping, and burning the belt. So I know because the current belt, I try to use the one that's already in place, the 15320, I think, and the belts that came with it are 15325s. And at first, I didn't do a whole lot of inspection, but when I first got them, I automatically assumed it was the same size belt, just two of them, and it turns out it looks like they're not. Pretty sure that one is 15,325. Like, oh, it's a thicker belt. Okay, so because the landing of the pulley is completely different than the landing pulley, the V belt pulley on my FC alternator. So that's that. Seems like it's coming along right now. I guess maybe this weekend, maybe Thursday, Friday, I'll find out what condition my suspension's in, my brakes in the rear. Because I would like to change the struts Friday, hopefully. If I can get those ball joints off, so I can get the parts off. And I don't really want to do that at the shop. Although at the shop will be ideal in a lot of ways. It would be ideal in a lot of ways because I can put it on a lift. And I can just easily just up, drop the bottom, up, fall down, and then get it out the car, compress the springs, and at a comfortable height, just put it back in there. Otherwise, at home, I have the advantage of taking my time, leaving it broken down, and just walking away, and not more. I'm not trying to do it all at once, but I'll be in entire confined space. I can't put on no lift. And it's cool, I guess. I guess I can say that's a disadvantage, but that's really the things to worry about. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to put it on the jack stands and take it from there. These are things that need to be done. So now, like, oh, really? I gotta do all this? Yeah, I gotta do all this. See how bad the suspension really is. It's probably just gone. I mean, I know it's gone. I don't know why it's gone, but lube up. At least maybe I can do. When I do it, I can lube up some bearings, not some bearings, but some bushings and stuff. To maybe inspect the bushings and see how bad they really are. See what bushings need to be replaced right away. The rear A-arm bushings are probably gone. The good news is that, well, that's about it for good news. Seems like maybe my engine mounts need to be tightened up more because the engine seems to be moving a lot more than it should. But it also could be because the transmission literally has no fucking support. So I don't know. That could be it. So the things I'll be working on the next couple of days would be putting the power steering pump in, changing the struts all the way around, and remounting the exhaust, or at least getting the exhaust so it doesn't bang up against the transmission mount. And maybe take some pictures so I can scheme out a better way of mounting up the transmission mount. Another advantage that I will have working in a hobby shop would be able to take the current mount off. Because I can just put on the lift, put the brace up there, hold the transmission in place, take the current mount off, and then inspect it, clean it up, prepare it for, who knows, that might even be able to mount some stuff up and mock some stuff up and glue it in there. I mean, it takes 24 hours to mount to dry. I mean, hell, the best thing I could do at this point would be to make a duplicate of that mount, mark up one, and make a duplicate, and leave the current one in there for the time being, and then use the duplicate to build my transmission mounts. Because the glue's got to dry, cure. And once it cures and dries, then I come back later and then reinstall the new one. But of course, to do that, I got to take the old one off. do measurements and cuts, and that's really what the big problem is right now. So that's about it. That's for update 3. Um, did some cleanup in the garage to move my parts around. That's about it for right now. Um, Almost close to getting the Rx7, close enough for me to actually start having fun with it. Right now, I enjoy driving it, but I don't enjoy driving it because I'm always worried. What does that sound? Why is it doing this? Is that something broken? Yes, that is broken. Okay, why is this broken? Oh, this, it's worrisome. I don't get to enjoy the car because I can't really drive it because I'm always worried. I gotta baby it, not just with the engine, but because if the transmission's gonna fucking fail, because I don't know how the transmission ran before I got it because it was used. Is my rear end going to do well? Which at this point I don't think the rear end is going to have a problem. Am I going to lose a ball joint? I mean, am I going to lose a tie rod end? Is a strut going to just give out? Am I going to pop an apex seal? Like, these things don't worry about right now, and it takes so much of the fun out of the driving because I'm constantly need to worry about not overdriving the car. So that's about it for right now. Once I get suspension done, make sure that transmission mount is good and I'm not moving, and keep that exhaust from hitting, and hopefully fix the exhaust leak so it's quieter. At least back to where it was 2 weeks ago. And able to get it to rev up high. If I can get it to rev up high, those are the things I really want to focus on. Once I be able to, because at this point, aside from that, I'm gonna call the engine good. I was worried about the moisture and the coolant, moisture in the oil. Turns out that's normal, especially considering the car wasn't really being driven. Complete normal, and it's gone now. Like, no traces of it at all. Perfect. The engine starts up every single time. Well, mostly every single time. When it's really cold outside, it seems like it doesn't want to kick over right away. Well, it kicks over right away and it cuts right back off, unless you bump the gas a couple times, and it's like, oh, okay. It's like the, and that actually just might be TPS stuck. TPS or something I thought about it. That's what that sounds like. It doesn't sound like the engine itself has a problem. It sounds like something else is getting stuck because it's cold. Because once it warms up, it has no problem with cold starts. It has no problem with warm starts or hot starts. It has, and it kicks over really, really good. The voltage is great right now. It is about, looks like it's probably around 13.5, or let's see, 12, 14, or 15. I think it's either 13.5 or it's good. It's the voltage is perfect. Headlights are dim, but that has nothing to do with voltage. It's just the fact that the fucking headlights are dim. So aside from the high RPM, the power steering pump, exhaust leak, and the transmission moving around, and of course the suspension feel like it's been dragged down the street by a dumpster. The car's running. It's actually running to the point where it's reliable. I can drive to work every day. I mean, I wish it wasn't cold outside, so that I wouldn't be battling stuff. Wondering if this is an effect of cold weather or early or break-in period or what. But given the bitterness of cold and everything like this in situations, cars actually running fairly well for its age and condition. As things improve, as things get replaced, I should see an evolution of this. I should see it actually going towards the way it should drive and perform, without all the sloshes, without the like I'm driving a balloon, a blimp, with poles on it, so it hits the ground real hard. And then once I be able to free rev it and hopefully get it to around 800,000 miles, then I'll be able to fully be able to really dive into it and really enjoy it at that point. And I think I do something about the shifter, because I miss gears a lot. Like, where am I at? Oh, wrong gear, not there. So, and I got new bushes in there, but I didn't fill it up with fluid. I wonder if that'll make it better. I don't know. fill it with fluid, maybe it makes it smoother. I mean, I don't know. If it might make it smoother, I doubt it make it allow me to go in gears easier. Because right now it's floppy. It's real floppy. Like, I don't know, where's it at? It doesn't feel crisp. So, yep, that's about it. So, I'll give you an update next time. Update 4 of Rx7.